You dare speak my mother's sacred tongue?
I speak the truth you buried beneath your empire.
How could someone like you know her words?
Because the woman you worship was one of us.
My mother lied about who she was?
No. She lied to protect you from the hate you became.
He laughed at her skin, her accent. Every word a weapon of pride. She didn't flinch. She just looked up and spoke, softly, in his dead mother's language. The room froze. His heartbeat stumbled. In that moment, the world's most feared man wasn't Don anymore. He was just a son, hearing his mother's ghost in a stranger's voice. The laughter hung in the air, sharp and cruel, bouncing off marble walls. Then her voice cut through it, soft, trembling, but powerful enough to silence the entire room. The Don's eyes widened. That language, only one woman had ever spoken it to him. His mother, buried 20 years ago beneath Sicilian soil. The black woman stood still, her gaze locked on his. The room's tension thickened. His men looked at each other, unsure whether to reach for their guns or bow their heads. "Who taught you those words?" the Don asked, his accent cracking for the first time in years. "You wouldn't believe me," she said, her voice steady now. "You never believed women like me." The words hit him like bullets. He took a step closer, studying her face, the fire in her eyes, the pain behind it. Something about her didn't fit the file he had read. She wasn't a spy. She wasn't a threat. She was something else entirely. She reached into her bag slowly. His men aimed their weapons. "Easy," she whispered, pulling out an old photograph, worn, half-burnt. She held it up. His mother, smiling, stood beside a younger version of herself, the same woman who now faced him. "No!" The Don's voice dropped to a whisper. "That's impossible." "Nothing's impossible," she said. "You just refuse to see what your family hid." He felt his chest tighten. Memories collided. His mother's lullabies in that same tongue. Her secret letters she never let him read. The stories of a place she said was too far and too dangerous. Now he understood why. The Don signaled his men to lower their guns. The silence was deafening. "You're saying my mother knew your family?" "She was my family," she replied, tears glistening but not falling. "She left us behind to build her new life among the people who never saw us as human." The Don's world, built on blood, loyalty, and lies, cracked open. He turned away, hiding the storm in his eyes. "You expect me to believe my mother came from your world?" "You already do," she said. "You heard it in my voice." He clenched his fists. The racism he'd inherited, the pride he'd worn like armor. Suddenly it felt like poison in his veins. For the first time, he didn't know whether to pull the trigger or fall to his knees. She walked closer, her heels echoing in the silence. "You killed men who looked like me," she said quietly. "You laughed when they begged for mercy. Tell me, Don, would you have laughed if you knew they spoke your mother's tongue too?" He looked up, his face pale. Every shadow in the room seemed to move closer. The empire he had built on fear now felt smaller than her truth. She pulled something else from her pocket, a ring, old and rusted, the same ring his mother had been buried with. "I dug this up," she whispered, "from the grave you never visited. She wasn't buried where you think." The Don's breath caught. He took the ring, his hand shaking. Inside, engraved faintly, was a name, Amara, not his mother's name. "Who was she?" he asked, voice breaking. "She was a woman your father erased," she said. "The one he left when he stole your mother's name and your life." The Don's world shattered. Every memory of warmth turned to ash. His mother hadn't been who she said she was. His empire, his bloodline, Everything built on theft and lies. He dropped to his knees. She stood over him, not with revenge in her eyes, but something far colder, mercy. "I didn't come here to kill you," she said softly. "I came to make you remember who you really are." The Don looked up, broken. "And who is that?" She leaned in close, her whisper cutting through the silence like glass. "The son of the woman you tried to forget." The lights flickered. The Don didn't move. The sound of her footsteps faded, but her words, they stayed. And for the first time in his life, the Don wasn't feared. He was haunted. Rain hammered the glass roof as the Don stood alone in his mother's old chapel, her ring clenched in his fist. The candles flickered like dying memories. He'd built empires on lies, buried men without guilt. But tonight, every ghost had his face. Then the doors creaked open. She entered, drenched from the storm, her eyes holding the kind of calm that breaks stronger men. He tried to speak, but his voice betrayed him. "Why come back?" he asked, though he already knew. She stepped closer, the echo of her heels striking through his fear. "Because truth doesn't die," she said. "You do." His men surrounded her, guns drawn. She didn't flinch. Her calm wasn't courage. It was prophecy. And when she whispered, they hesitated. The same ancient language. His mother's voice, reborn. He shouted, "Stop!" And for the first time in his empire's history, the command was to save, not kill. Every man froze, confused. She looked at him, tears tracing her cheek. "You still don't see it, do you? You were never the Don." His heartbeat stumbled. "What did you say?" Her lips trembled as she whispered. "You were the orphan your mother raised to hide the blood she stole." Cut deeper than a bullet, the Don staggered back. His mother, the woman he worshipped, had lied about everything. His real mother wasn't buried in Sicily. She was standing in front of him. The black woman he'd mocked, hunted, almost killed, was his sister's daughter, his niece, his only living blood. The truth hit him like thunder. The empire, the name, the pride, all of it built on stolen identity. He dropped the gun. "What do you want from me?" he whispered. She stepped closer, lightning flashing behind her like divine punishment. "Justice," she said, "but not the kind you know." She tossed something onto the floor. "A drive?" He picked it up confused. "Your men record everything," she said. "Your crimes, your words, your laughter. Tonight the world will see what you really are." His chest tightened. "You wouldn't." She smiled sadly. "I already did." The entire chapel lit up. Screens on every wall flickered to life, showing his empire's truth. The killings of racism, the deals he'd buried. The monsters in his shadow now had his face. His own men watched in silence, their loyalty bleeding away. The Don's power, gone in seconds, stripped not by bullets but by truth. He fell to his knees. "You destroyed me," he whispered. "No," she said softly. "You destroyed yourself the day you laughed at your own blood." The storm outside roared. The chapel doors blew open, and thunder swallowed the silence. She turned to leave, but he called out, voice shaking, "Who are you now?" She looked back, eyes glimmering through the stormlight. "The language you forgot," she said. "The truth you buried." Then she vanished into the rain. The Don sat alone, surrounded by screens replaying his sins. The ring slipped from his hand and rolled across the marble floor, stopping at the foot of his mother's statue. The wind carried her final words to the broken windows, words he could finally understand. He looked up, whispering them back, his voice trembling like a child's. "Forgive me." But there was no answer, only the sound of thunder and the ghost of his mother's language echoing in the dark. Morning broke over the ruins of the Don's empire. The mansion that once roared with power now whispered with ghosts. His men had scattered. The world had seen the truth. The dawn, no longer a name of fear, but a symbol of shame. He sat by the chapel window, the ring still warm in his palm, his reflection split between the man he was and the boy his mother once sang to. Outside, the rain had stopped. Only the black woman remained, watching from the gate. She'd expected vengeance to feel like victory, but it didn't. It felt like loss. She had destroyed the monster who mocked her people, but also freed the child he used to be. And deep down, she wished the story had ended before it began. He walked toward her slowly, each step heavier than the last. "You took everything," he said quietly. She looked up. "No," she replied. "I gave you what your mother wanted, the truth." He nodded, broken but alive, his eyes softer than they had ever been. "And what now?" Her lips curved, not in triumph, but peace. "Now you live with what you finally see." She reached into her coat and handed him a folded letter, yellowed, fragile, and sealed with wax. "It's from her," she whispered. "Your real mother." His breath caught. He broke the seal. Inside, her handwriting trembled across the paper. Asterisk. "If you are reading this, my son, it means the world has punished me through you. Forgive the silence. I hid you, protect you from the color of my skin and from the hate I couldn't kill." Asterisk. Tears blurred the ink. His mother hadn't abandoned him. She had sacrificed her name so he could live without the chains that had bound her. The dawn fell to his knees, clutching the letter like a heartbeat. "All my life," he whispered, "I hated the woman who saved me." The woman stepped closer, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Now you can love her again." The chapel bells rang, not for death this time, but for something that had taken longer to be born. Forgiveness. And as she walked away, her voice drifted through the air, soft, proud, and familiar, in his mother's language. For the first time, the Don understood every word. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because some stories aren't just told, they're felt.